welcome to the Alt Health Show, brought to you by Control Skin, where we challenge health and gain our freedom back. On this podcast, we're going to chat about all things skin, not just the external, but the internal too. And I'm here with my wonderful co-host, the Crustache Queen, Eve Swartz.
Hello. Yes, on this podcast, we will not just be talking about just the external, it's going to be the internal too, as Jordan said. All things to do with sleep, confidence, everything that you can imagine touching on skin. We're going to cover it at some point.
Perfect. And I hope you're not offended by me calling you the Crustache Queen. I just know you say you have a crustache.
No,
I mean, it's gone now, isn't it?
And yes. No, it's still there. It's still there.
Okay.
I feel like the lighting is like giving me all credit right now, but no, the crustache is still very much there. She's going strong.
I've had mine. Mine's been, it's the one sort of place on my face where I'm just like, this is going to take forever to heal.
Oh.
It's so weird. Like, both of us is just like got a crusty stash.
Honestly, I feel like that she's here to stay right until the end. I think like there's no getting rid of it. And like I get it here and I get it here, and they just don't want to go. They're just not.
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna stick around for the ride. I'm like.
And I love that you've just decided to call it the Crustache. I never thought of calling it a Crustache.
No, I can't take credit. I saw a girl comment. No, she called it a Crustache, and I was like, I commented back, and I was like, I hope you don't mind, but I'm using this forever now. I'm claiming it as my own. So she's giving me credit, guys. I'm not gonna say that it was my idea.
Yeah, I mean, claim it. I think that could be trademarked, to be honest.
I might do that. I might do it like Kylie Jenner, like where she trademarks everything she says. I'm just gonna do that.
Yeah. Wait, so she trademarked things she says.
Yeah, there was this one meme where it was like that sunshine meme where it was like, good morning, sunshine. And she like actually trademarked those words.
You're
so
kidding.
You can't use it.
Good morning, sunshine.
It was something like that. I can't remember what it was. But something similar. Bizarre.
Yeah, random. Imagine if people just went around trademarking everything they said. There'd be nothing left to say. Like all those quotes, like "You're welcome" came from Nike, from Kobe Bryant at Nike, and gosh. Imagine if there's like, oh yeah, no one's allowed to say that. You got to pay me $1 million every time you say it. Well, now we're probably gonna have Kylie calling us up now and being you said morning, sunshine.
We're gonna get like copyright striked or something.
Yeah. Anyway, what have you been up to? You've returned home, and how was that?
Yeah. So as I'm sure, like most people come from our TikToks on here. So I moved to London like a month ago, and then this was my first time returning back to my family house. And I was super nervous because I was obviously, the last time I was here, I was really sick still. Like I spent all my time in this room when I was going through TSW. And I was quite nervous coming in, and it was some kind of like weird trauma response that I need to get into with a therapist, I feel like, because like coming back into this room, all of the memories just hit me of when I was, unable to leave my bed. Like this bed, we've been through a lot together, She's been covered in crust, covered in weep, nasty. I came in.
Yeah, our poor sheets and like the mattress,
that needs to be replaced.
People going through TSW. Sure. Yeah. People going through TSW would have the grossest beds in the world.
Yeah, it's so gross. It's honestly, I thought about I don't know if you've ever watched Schitt's Creek. It's like a TV show. It's a Canadian TV show. And
no, but I've heard of it.
There's this one episode where David wets the bed by accident, and then his partner puts like a plastic sheet down underneath the bed. And I was like, I think I need one of them for my weeb. Like it was getting pretty gross.
Yeah.
But I came in and I just felt so weird being back, like being so much better than I am now. And I was like, now I have to function like a normal human being in my home when I'm so used to just like not being able to do anything. So it's weird, but I feel quite proud that I'm able to come home and like be better. So in all, it's a good thing. But no, I
can imagine like leaving the space and then coming back to being to where it all went down, basically, like where like coming back to that, it would it'd be eye-opening. It'd be kind of I guess kind of the emotions would come back, I imagine, like that you were going through when you were in there. So it would be hard. Like, and there's I feel like I'm not going to experience it, but I probably will. I know a lot of people who go through TSW have PTSD of some sort. So, I mean, I probably will have it if I start seeing one little bit of eczema once I'm finally through on the other side. I'll be like, fuck, what's going on? And start freaking out. But I know it's a super common thing to go through once you've been through it, because it is a crazy, wild experience. So that's fair enough.
For sure. Yeah, but I feel like we've got more important things to talk about here, because someone has had something down and I can see it on my screen, and I feel like you need to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's more important, but it's a big turning point for me, actually. So I've had a haircut, and this was something I've been really excited for and really dreaming of for a while, because I lost the front of my hair. Like, it was the opposite. So I don't know if anyone out there remembers Ronaldo in the 2002 World Cup. He shaved the back of his head, but he left the front. Mine was like the opposite. So like the first sort of like 5 centimeters just disappeared off the front of my head, and then the rest of it stayed. So I had this really weird like step on my hair. And it was just like, once that happened, it was just all out of the window. Like, all styling of hair was gone. So you would have seen on my TikToks and stuff, there's just fucking hair everywhere. Like, I look like Albert Einstein is what I could explain it the closest to. It was just whatever. So, and usually like I like to have my hair kind of styled, so it was a bit different for me. It was probably a good thing. But now, I got my hair cut done. I went to these legends at Zeppelin Barbers in the Gold Coast, near where I live, and they were so good. And we got in there, and like I didn't know what haircut I wanted to do, so I put a poll out on TikTok and stuff, and I was either like the mullet or the dad cut, and the mullet won by an absolute mile. Oh, yeah. And then I got in there and I was chatting to the guy, hadn't told him about the poll or anything like that, and he's like, "Oh, I reckon your hair is perfect for a mullet. Like, let's do it. Everyone's getting one going at the moment. Yeah. I reckon it'd be awesome." And I was like, "It's meant to be. I've got to follow through with this." So yeah, to celebrate my hair coming back, my eyebrow coming back. I don't know if you can see that there, but my left eyebrow is back in existence. It's a blonde one, so it's still pretty much, you can't see it, but anyway, it's good enough for me. And yeah, so to celebrate it coming back, I went the mullet. I don't think I've ever had one in my life, but it's kind of fun. I don't know if you can sort of see what's going on there. A bit of fluff out the back.
Look at that party in the back.
Yeah, it's not like not a huge one.
It's great.
Like we have in Oz, I don't know if it's really much of a thing in the UK, but there's a few people really getting around the mullets lately, and there's a guy called Bailey Smith, and he's got a mega one. Yeah, is it in the UK?
It. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I feel like everywhere at the minute it's like contagious.
Yeah.
One person gets it, and then the mullet. It's like a mullet sickness. Everyone. It's just going around. It's an epidemic. It's a pandemic. Forget
Some people
COVID.
are calling it mullet season. Like, I don't know if it's just like.
Yes, it's a mullet season, baby. I'm seeing it everywhere. Honestly, like forget Corona. It's the mullet now. Like that's
it's a mullet pandemic.
No, do you know what? I am so jealous. I want to get my hair cut into a mullet now, to be honest. But no, I was just thinking about that TikTok where your hair fell out and then you tried to stick it onto your eyebrows, and now you've got eyebrows and hair. So go on.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, it was just like, it would just come out in clumps. It was just like, it would just fall out, and then because my head, my scalp went all like flaky, and obviously went through TSW as well, or is going through it. It would just, it like a big bit will flake off, and then there'd just be like 30 strands of hair would just sort of like come out with it.
Yeah,
So it was pretty sad. And there was just like through the house, there's just like clumps all over the floor and shit.
I could imagine Karis like walking behind you with the Hoover, hoovering up skin and hair as you go.
Yeah, I need it. Like, it's crazy with the flakes. Like, honestly, I reckon I could vacuum every 5 minutes. Like we've had someone, because there's just so much flakes, and Karis is working and trying to do so much stuff for me. We've asked a cleaner to come, and she comes every 2 weeks, and honestly she could come every day. It is so there are so many flakes.
And forget, like, I went on a holiday with like a little tiny staycation with my girlfriend. We stayed for like 2 nights. This was like in the height of TSW, and which was brave going somewhere else. But anyway, they had dark wood floors in this like tiny caravan. It was dark wood floors. And they had no Hoover. So when I left, I was literally like, oh my god, like the whole floor was just white. I was like, that's so embarrassing.
Was it an Airbnb?
Yeah. So I had to like message a woman, and I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I tried to use the suite, but I've gone for a skin condition. Like, there's no saving that. I do apologise.
No, that's dark floors would be brutal. Like, I'm so lucky. You got light floors. You cannot see anything on these floors.
Oh, thank God.
And dark floors. Imagine like, it'd be mentally straining as well.
For sure.
Like, I don't know if people have noticed, but I usually wear grey all the time. Like, I have a uniform, which I think was one of the best things I did. I had a grey top, and then these like just like beige pants, and I even had socks. Like, I bought 5 pairs of socks, 5 pairs of the pants, and 5 t-shirts, because I didn't want to think about clothing while I was going through. It's just one thing to get rid of, and also you see the least amount of flakes on the colors that I bought, and it just made me mentally a little bit happier, because I always like hated like being out or like just seeing like flakes on my shoulders and that kind of stuff. So I was like, you know what, I'll get a bunch of grey tops, and then I won't really think about it, which made it heaps easier. Yeah, well, and I'm just thinking, people with dark floors, like, that would be so mentally, like, for me anyway, it'd be so mentally hard to like just be like, far out, here we go again, there's all these flakes here. And
no, I could not do it. I mean, even now, like, wearing dark clothes, like, I still flake now, like, even off my face and stuff, and I'm like constantly like, just wiping that off.
Yes. I get real conscious about it. I know we shouldn't, but it's easy to do.
For sure. But yeah, with the hair, yes, I lost all my hair in September, just quickly, and I've noticed that it's all going back, and I've got these like tufts at the top of my hair now, and it's all tufting all around at the back, at the crown of my head, and after like one day it all sticks up like this, and I just have this like big frizz pile at the top of my head. And I'm like, when is that going to grow through? Because that's not cute. It's not
I mean, it's it'll eventually come out, I'm sure, but on that, I think you would have the perfect hair for a mullet. Like, it's a little bit like curly, like it would be the perfect mullet hair. I'm
waiting. There's this girl that we follow each other on TikTok, and she's an incredible hairdresser, and she does a lot of like shag mullet type hairstyles, and she's going to do my hair, and I'm going to put myself in, and then I'm going to be like living my mullet best life, and I can't wait. Yeah,
that'd be brilliant. Because it is honestly like, that'd be the dream mullet hair, I reckon.
Yeah. I can't wait. I literally can't wait. But right, we should probably get on with the rest of the podcast.
Yes. Sorry, we are talking a lot of shit, so sorry about that.
Standard.
People are here for other things.
Not just us. What do you mean?
Yeah. It's easy to forget, of course, always. We do get a bit selfish through TSW. Like, we kind of expect the world to work around us sometimes. So maybe we just need to get out of that. But yes, everyone is here for Dr. Olivia and her to talk about traditional Chinese medicine. And who is her full name's Dr. Olivia Friedman. She's my Chinese medicine dermatologist, and we've also towards the end of the episode we've brought in Christopher Ignace, also known as Topical Roid Rage on Instagram and TikTok, and he has had a crazy, like, really incredible transformation after he started using traditional Chinese medicine with Dr. Olivia Friedman as well. And yes, it's been, just his transformation is incredible. It's been amazing for me. But yeah, and I'm getting better and better as time goes on. But it was wild. Like, he was, I think, 16 months through TSW, and his skin was looking really rough, like early days of TSW. And he'd like get out of the shower and his whole entire body would just like come out in these like bright red, like with acidness. And then, he started using traditional Chinese medicine within 2 months. He looked completely healed, and he considers himself to be completely healed. It's just like the most wild transformation.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely incredible to see, and I can't wait to hear more from Olivia and from Chris, because it's going to be so interesting.
Yeah, what are you excited about to sort of learn about from them?
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely with Olivia, because I never went down the route of Chinese medicine. I'm so interested to see like what the differences are between how traditional Chinese medicine works and how Western medicine works, and like the fact that I know that like she spends a lot more time like going into all different kinds of side effects that you guys experience. It's much more tailored to you, from what I understand anyway. So I'm so interested to hear like how that all works, and you know, whether it's possibly a more viable option than going down the Western medicine route. I think it's going to be, you know, hopefully a big thing in the TSW community, but we'll find out after this podcast, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think it is something that is growing in the TSW community. Like, there is like a lot of people starting it, and just chatting with Dr. Olivia sort of off air, I guess. She does talk about how like most of the work that she does now is all TSW, but she does help people with all kinds of skin issues, because she's a dermatologist, essentially of the sort of Chinese medicine. So yeah, it's really awesome to hear from her. And just for me, just on that quickly, Dr. Olivia was the first medical professional that I ever saw that understood what I was going through with TSWs. Like my local doctor that I've had here, she's been incredible. But she has said herself, she's like, I'm not an expert. I'm just here supporting you through your journey and what you want to do. And I've never had anyone up until Dr. Olivia actually understand TSW. So finding her was, even just to chat to as a medical professional, was amazing. And yeah, having that that sort of knowledge base of understanding. She's super understanding of what we're going through, and that's something that we do talk about, as well as like how she manages the mental sort of health side of what we go through, because people going through TSW, we have all kinds of wild sort of wild thoughts and reactions and needs. Like we're all trying to get through this thing, and we're battling sort of addictions that we have to making our skin look perfect, and we'll do crazy wild things to pretty much do anything, but we're also scared of everything, and we're scared of trying new things. And that's something that we talk about, as well as we talk about steroids in traditional Chinese medicine, and how that was actually introduced by some companies that kind of ruined it for everyone that's doing Chinese medicine. So we talk about how, steroids aren't traditionally in Chinese medicine. We talk about licorice as well. We break that down as to whether that's actually a steroid or not, or if it's the same as the corticosteroids that we use in our topical steroids. So there's plenty of stuff that we get into that I think everyone is going to get a lot out of. And then to have Chris come on as well and chat about his experience is really, really awesome.
Yeah.
I'll just give, we've got a little bio here from Dr. Olivia as well, just so you can sort of understand her background. So Dr. Olivia Friedman, I've probably pronounced that wrong, and I'm really sorry. Sorry, Dr. Olivia. But I think it's Dr. Olivia Sue Friedman. She earned a doctorate in acupuncture and Chinese medicine from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine, a diploma in traditional Chinese medicine dermatology from Avicenna, United Kingdom, and a MSOM, which I'm not too sure what that is. You can probably look that up, from the National University of Health Sciences. She's also a board-certified NCCAOM diplomat of Oriental Medicine. And Dr. Olivia also serves as a chair of the board of directors of the American Society of Acupuncturists, advisory board of Learned Skin, the faculty of the Chicago Integrative Eczema Support Group, sponsored by the National Eczema Association, and the NUHS Presidential Alumni Board, Alumni Advisory Board. And Dr. Olivia is of course the owner of Amethyst Holistic Skin Solutions, and she practices traditional Chinese medicine dermatology, utilizing only herbal medicine. So it might be the herbs that I drink every day, or through topical stuff, and I'm sure there's other things as well. But she is 100% online. So if she's based in Chicago, but if like I'm in Australia, I can see her. If you are in China, you can see her. If you're in France, you can see her. It's like anyone from anywhere in the world can see her. And that's, I think, something that's really, really awesome is she's so accessible to many, many people around the world. And she can get the herbs out to people really quickly as well. So I haven't seen any issues with that. So yeah, let's get into the podcast with Dr. Olivia, and I hope you all enjoy it. Welcome to the show, Dr. Olivia. I'm so pleased to have you on.
Well, thanks so much for having me on, Jordan, and I'm really, really pleased to be here. As you know, TSW is very near and dear to my heart because there's so many people who have it and really don't have a lot of different options for it. So whatever I can do to help people out is certainly my quest in life, I guess.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's you honestly have helped so many people. Like, I see it all over the internet, all these different people that have had amazing results from your help, and I think it's really incredible what you've done for the community. Just to sort of start us off, would you be able to just sort of give us a bit of a background on traditional Chinese medicine and the dermatology side of things and how you sort of help skin conditions?
Yeah, sure. So one of the biggest difference between how we approach things in the dermatological sense with TCM versus Western medicine is typically with Western medicine, we focus in on a mechanism that's gone wrong or awry. And we try to find a chemical that will help to make that alleviate or mask it. And so as long as we're using those drugs, we typically can get better or at least feel better, and we can manage things. But oftentimes what happens is we haven't really dealt with the reason why that happened in the first place. And so when we stop using those drugs, all those conditions come back. So the difference between Western and TCM is the TCM way of looking at things is we're really trying to figure out, well, why did this happen in the first place? And it's probably a cluster of different symptoms, not just the one. And it's usually because there's a lot of different things going on in the background that are playing into this. So TCM really looks at the constitution of the person. It really looks at, the various different ways it's actually expressing itself on the skin, and also looking at other contributing factors that are playing a part in this. And then we look at all of those things, including the emotional, psychological part, which you sort of mentioned at the beginning. And we look at the person as a whole person. And then based on that, we actually put together a customized herbal formula that will address all of these different things, so that we're actually looking at why is it happening for this person versus just calling a disease and having the same thing for everybody. So the biggest differences are how we approach the medicine and also how we actually approach the condition overall. So No one's ever treated the same. Everybody has a very customized treatment plan, and it's really dependent upon how they're responding to it.
Yeah, amazing. And it's would you be able to sort of give us like a bit of an example of, okay, I guess with me, early on I had this crazy dry skin and dampness. Would you be able to, and it was sort of dampness on my legs where it was just sort of, I had these flakes on top and underneath it was all just wet, and I'd touch it and they'd just fall away. Would you sort of be able to give an example of how you look at that and be like, okay, I now have to try and fix this? Like, how do you go about doing something like that?
Yeah. So what's interesting is most people think like I'm either dry or I'm wet, and if I'm wet I should dry it, and if I'm dry I should moisturize, and they kind of think of things in terms of extremes. What we know in Chinese medicine is that everybody who has or at least everybody who has a skin condition probably has a combination of these different things, whether it's a wetness or a dryness, and we have to take into consideration like to what degree do we have both. So we're always looking at sort of the ratio. So is the ratio skewing more damp? Is it skewing more dry? And if it is, then we change our herbs based on that change. So unlike the way we sort of look at things in Western dermatology, where we say, well, you have eczema or you have TSW, so we will give you this drug and like everybody gets the same ones. We say, okay, so how much of this is really, really damp and how much of this is really, really dry? And then we kind of change the herbs. Now, the other part of it that gets more complicated is dryness and wetness can actually be caused by a lot of other things. It's not just something that appears in your condition. So, for example, if in Chinese medicine we talk a lot about heat, and in TSW, as you know, lots of people are really, really hot all the time, and they are radiating heat, and they are always hotter than the other people in the room. And that heat can also oftentimes dry up a lot of the bodily fluids that are making you dry. On the same note, heat can also obstruct all the fluids that are in your body and not allow them to circulate in the way that they need to. And that's why you have certain areas that are actually damp and actually weeping. So the same thing can actually cause two different conditions, right?
Okay.
Same thing with dampness. You can have a constitution that is more prone to dampness to begin with. And then when you have a condition like TSW, it amplifies. We can also have a situation where because you have this dampness, it's now hindering the way things are circulating in your body, and now it can cause dryness in certain areas. So one can play a part in the other, and that's why in Chinese medicine we're always looking at, okay, to what degree is each one of these happening, and what is causing it for you? So really understanding what the root cause is of each of these different situations is how we really treat in Chinese medicine. And as you just heard, it can be pretty complicated. So untangling that ball of yarn is a little bit more, takes a little bit more knowledge and experience to do. And I think there's oftentimes people who come to me and go, well, it's damp, so just give me those herbs that are going to dry me up. And I'm like, well, there's probably some other things I should know about you before I can determine which herbs are right for you. And this is the reason why when you come to me, I will ask you 100 questions. And Jordan can attest, it truly is 100 questions.
It really is, yeah. The initial form that you get, it takes a fair while to get through, but I think that gives you an amazing background. And then when we have our they're sort of monthly-ish catch-ups, you're always asking me different questions. And sometimes I'm like, why are you asking me these questions? Like I don't really know where it's coming from, it's funny how a certain question can lead to you understanding what's going on with me a lot more, because it is all about sort of, I guess it's hard for you can look at someone and you can look at their pictures and look at their skin, but that doesn't really tell you what's going on 100%. Like there's all these different things that are going on internally, and especially with TSW, there are so many more side effects than just the skin. So I feel like that can really tell you a lot about what's going on with the person as well, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are not used to having so many questions asked, right? I mean, typically when you go in to see a dermatologist or almost every doctor, you have about 10-15 minutes. They kind of look at you, they do a few things, and then they give you a prescription, right? And so when I'm asking you questions about, your bowel movements and whether or not you're sweating at night, and, whether or not you're even sleeping, or what time in the night are you actually waking up, things like that, people are always like, wait, what? But believe it or not, every single one of those questions is another clue for me to help me understand what it is that's actually causing your version of TSW.
Yeah, and I guess that's true. We're not really used to having all those questions being asked. It's a bit more of it's definitely more of a holistic view. So it's, I think it's awesome to have that. And you can sort of feel that when you're having those conversations with you and you're asking all those questions, you're like, okay, I feel like, you're really getting an overall view of what is going on with me. One sort of thing that does come up is a lot, and I've noticed it on my TikTok, is people are always very skeptical about Chinese medicine. How do you what's sort of your answer to that, to the sort of the skeptics out there on Chinese medicine?
Yeah. Well, I think everyone's always nervous about things they don't know very well, right? I think that's fair for everything, not just medicine. And I think we've all been raised to be in this system of healthcare that, of course, you see a doctor, of course, they give you prescriptions, and of course, we do it this way. So to do anything different is really, going in such a different direction that most of the time people don't feel comfortable doing that. I will say that Chinese medicine has been around longer than any other medicine, and there's got to be a reason why it's sticking around, right? If it wasn't working or didn't really have any credibility, then it would not exist. So Chinese medicine, I think the last I looked, it was like around 4,000, 5,000 years ago that, this system was codified and actually put in place. And, they don't just use it for dermatology, they use it for everything. So I think that is testament alone that if something can last for that long, there's got to be something to it. As far as like skepticism, I think it's also undermined by, there are some people who get treatments and it doesn't work out, and so they think, oh well, that doesn't work, then that can't be a good medicine. And I think it's fair to say that in every single type of medicine there is a percentage of people who just do not respond. And even the best medicines in the world, whether they're antibiotics or things like that, like some people just can't take them, or some people have really adverse reactions to them. So I think it's fair to say no matter what kind of medicine you have, you're always going to have a percentage of people who can't take it. That's one of the reasons why I do a trial with everybody before we move forward, just to make sure you're not that person. And I will also say that it really depends on the expertise and the knowledge of the practitioner you go to. Obviously, if you're going to somebody who hasn't been around for very long, doesn't really know a condition well, you're probably not going to get a great treatment, because as we were talking about, it's a very customized one where you do ask a lot of questions. And if your practitioner doesn't know what questions to ask or what actually is the meaning behind the answer to these questions, then they'll have a tougher time putting together a formula for you. So if you go to a practitioner who's a little bit less experienced in a particular condition, then you might not get as great of a treatment, right? And then, what ends up happening is people just say, blanket that nobody in this particular profession could be good because I didn't get a good treatment for this one person, and therefore this whole profession's got to be terrible. So I think, it's fair to say that in every profession, there are those who are really good at what they do, and there are some that really aren't, right? And I think we see that in our jobs every day, whether you're in computer science or sales or whatever. There's always people who are somewhat better at things and not as great, right? So definitely. I think that's why, so I think that's why sometimes we get that situation.
For sure. And I noticed that as well, because while I was waiting for our first appointment, because I think it was a little bit of a wait over the Christmas break, I found a local Chinese medicine person or a Chinese medicine doctor, and he said that he helped out with skin and different things, but he didn't understand TSW, and that was a huge difference. He might be able to help someone maybe with sort of moderate eczema and those kind of things, but with your knowledge, and he wasn't a Chinese medicine dermatologist, so that kind of I guess that there's a difference between a Chinese medicine doctor and a Chinese medicine dermatologist, like we have in, or like not we have, but like in Western medicine, there's a dermatologist and then there's your GP. So the questions that he was asking just weren't as, I guess, weren't leading to genuine conclusions as to what was going on with me. And I didn't really see any results. And then when I first caught up with you, and we went through our sort of first run of herbs, and I was seeing instant results. It was incredible. So I think that's definitely the expertise of the person that you see. They got to be specialists in what you're going through to get those results. And I think that's the same with any condition. You want to see someone who just works on that every day. Like, it's impossible for our GP to know everything about every skin condition and medication and all that kind of stuff. It's just something we can't expect from people. So that 100%, that's absolutely true for sure. So it's, the next question is, and we sort of touched on this a little bit, but what a common question that you get is like, how successful is traditional Chinese medicine?
So that's a great question, and it really varies. I would say that some people are a lot more responsive to others. Jordan has been incredibly responsive. So
I'm so lucky.
So I would caution people that, not everybody is equal, and some people will be slower responders. Jordan happens to be a quick responder. And so I would say it depends on a lot of different things. So one thing is to what degree the severity of the condition is. Obviously, somebody who's got a lot more things going on and a lot more systems that have been affected is probably going to take a little bit longer, because the complexity of the condition has become a little bit more. That's not always the case. Sometimes those people are quick responders too. Sometimes I would say it has to do with how consistent people are with their herbal formulas. I always tell this story that I once saw a teenage boy who kept on telling me he was taking his herbs, and only to find out 3 months later that his mother found 3 months of herbs in his closet. So, you definitely have to take them in order to see some progress. And the other thing is, it depends on what else is going on in your life as well. I would say, emotional, psychological issues can definitely play a role. If you're traveling a lot from different climates and things like that, that can also change what happens to your skin. It can also, if you have food sensitivities and you happen to eat something along the way, that can kind of set you back. So I would say there's a lot of different things that can change the evolution of your skin getting better or worse. And so we kind of have to take all of those things into consideration. It also depends on where in the cycle of TSW you are, right? I think some people who are in the beginning stages and really, really, really rough times where they're bedridden and they're not getting out of bed at all because they're in so much pain and, have no energy and things like that, will probably take a little bit longer than somebody who's kind of at the tail end and really just trying to get their skin texture to be, back to normal again. So I would say there's no real linear equation that I can say to you, hey, if you start today, by X date, you're going to be done. Or if you take X amount of packets, you're going to be 50% there. So I would say the best way to figure out what your body can do is to try it for a few weeks or months and see how quickly it happens. And if it is quick, then you will probably see good results quickly. And if it's slow, it'll probably be slower. And if we don't see results, then, we will have a conversation and we will say, is this approach right for you? Because you might be one of those people that just doesn't respond to herbs. So it can be all over the board. And I think all medicine is like that, right?
Definitely.
I don't think it's just herbal medicine. I think, for every single medication that I know out there for eczema, I've heard completely different results from different people. Some people get side effects, some people don't. Some people clear up, some people don't. So I would say it really has to do with your body. Yeah,
and I think that one of the things that is great about Chinese medicine is that there are no real side effects. Or are there any side effects that you can get from Chinese medicine? And is there any sort of dependency that you can get that we commonly find in Western drugs, such as the steroids and Dupixent and those kind of things that are out there?
Yeah, to date, and we're talking for 1,000 years, we have not found any real addictions to herbs. We have not had any kind of side effects other than if somebody has maybe an allergy to a particular category of things, like maybe you have a ragweed allergy, then maybe, you know, for using flowers and things like that, that's not the best for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say it's relatively safe. I would say, you know, people still can get situations where they may have a reaction to an herb because for their particular body, it just doesn't quite work out. But I wouldn't say that, you know, every person who has this particular herb is going to have a problem. So that's the nice thing about a natural medicine is your body does metabolize it more naturally because it is something that happens in the natural world. Whereas, you know, all of the pharmaceuticals are chemicals that are man-made and they're not things that occur naturally. So that's not to say they can't work, but it does say that, you know, it's not something that's easily assimilated by the body. That's usually why we have side effects too. And again, Chinese medicine is always looking at the whole body. We're not just looking at one mechanism. And I think the biggest key is that we're not trying to shut something down. We're trying to actually move the body to function normally, and we're trying to coax it, and we're trying to use the body's inner ability to heal itself. So, you know, that's a very natural process versus trying to stop something that's happening in your body or to, you know, push it to do something that it's not meant to do.
Just to clarify, is that sort of what Western medicine does? Because, I mean, I take medicines all the time and I don't really understand what they do. The doctor tells me to take it and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll take it. It should work. So is that how Western medicine works? Is it sort of shutting things down in order to try and stop them being so crazy, I guess?
Yeah, so if you look at some of the research that's being done, let's take eczema as an example, since a lot of people started that way before TSW. A lot of the medications that are out there right now are really looking at a specific mechanism. And so they kind of identify that there's a particular interleukin that's related to itch. And if they can just shut down that interleukin, then you shouldn't have itch anymore, right? The problem is that itch is not that simple. It's not just one little thing that's causing that itch. And in Chinese medicine, we actually say there's 11 different types of itch. So we have to figure out which one you have, and then we have to figure out which herb actually addresses that. So oftentimes that's why that thing doesn't always work for everybody. It might work on some people. I would say, you know, another example would be like antibiotics, right? I mean, they're meant to kill everything. Right? They're not just going after the one problem that you have in your body. You know, oftentimes with TSW, we have a staph infection, right? So you would think that the antibiotic that we're using is only going after the staph, but it's not. It's going after everything that's in the body that's bacterial, right? And, you know, that's also not the greatest way to deal with a body that has a microbiome, right? We always have a commensal relationship with all of these different bacterias, viruses, you know, all these microorganisms that are living on our skin, and to kill all of them is not the right way to go. To bring them back into balance makes a lot more sense, right? If they're always on our body, then they live on our body at a certain ratio. And if we're killing off one, then that's automatically going to set another one, you know, to probably proliferate or probably be underabundant, which makes us have this whole deficiency again. So we're not really solving the problem. So I think there's a lot of different drugs that do a number of different things that get at part of the problem, but they don't get at the whole problem. And I think that's why there's some limitations in a lot of these medications.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question that's sort of come through for you that's quite common is, can you do traditional Chinese medicine if you're pregnant? And are there any potential issues with doing that?
Yeah, so with all the patients who have TSW and are pregnant, I prefer not to give them any traditional Chinese medicine at that point in time, only for the reason that as a mom, I don't know that you ever want to second guess any of your choices, and I don't want to be somebody who's part of that equation. So I just kind of step out and I say, you know, I'll be happy to see you when you are no longer pregnant. And then we can kind of go from there. There are a number of herbs that we use for TSW that are probably not the best herbs for people who are pregnant. Getting back to that idea of, dampness and heat. Well, if we're going to use the analogy of the bun in the oven, guess what? We've got some heat and we've got some damp there. And if we're trying to get rid of that, guess what? We might be getting rid of that fetus too. So probably not a good idea to do those kinds of things. So I just stay away from it.
Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely. It's definitely a safer route. Do you cater for, so we're talking a lot about topical steroid withdrawal, but do you cater for other skin conditions as well? And are you able to sort of help people with all kinds of issues?
Yeah, so TCM dermatology actually addresses all the different skin conditions there are. It's actually very interesting because if you look at ancient texts, you will see that they identified a lot of different skin conditions, as long as 4,000 years ago. And so you can see that these were all observed. And so they have different means of treating all of these different things. So yes, we treat everything that there is. I would say, there's some that are obviously easier to treat than others. But yeah, I mean, I have seen a lot of different people with a lot of conditions. I would say that I probably see a lot more people with TSW nowadays. And I would say the majority of my clinic is probably TSW now.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And it's what are some of those skin conditions that are easier to sort of manage and help treat than the other ones?
So again, I would say it depends on the person, but I would say something like an acne is probably a little bit easier than a TSW.
Yeah.
It doesn't change as much. I would say TSW has a really interesting life. I would say it's constantly changing. It's very random how it changes. And I feel like if you gave it a personality, it's incredibly stubborn and it has this will to live. And so, I find that a lot of my patients will, clear up certain areas that were their problem areas. And then all of a sudden it sneaks up in an area that they never had it before. So it's very persistent. Whereas acne isn't quite like that. I think that it comes up in certain places and it might keep coming up, but it's definitely not running all over the body, right?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you remember like my sort of condition as it sort of moved along, but can you sort of give a bit of a perspective of how you've seen my condition progress as things have changed? Just to give an example of our ups and downs that we're going through all the time.
Yeah, well, I remember when I got your first set of pictures that you had bandages all over your body to soak up all the ooze, right? And a lot of the pictures were obstructed because these bandages or these white gauze were like everywhere. They were in your ears, they were around your neck, they were around your arms and around your legs. And, subsequent pictures, there was less and less of this gauze because the oozing was definitely subsiding and more of those lesions were closing up. And, I think you went through a period where you were flaking a lot and you were just leaving, what everyone calls snow and dust everywhere. You were vacuuming the house a lot. Your bed sheets had a lot of stuff in them too. And, as time went on, like you definitely had less and less of that as well, right? I would say you've had a really nice progression. You haven't had a lot of setbacks along the way, but I do see a number of patients who we go forward 5 steps and then we go back 1, and then we go forward maybe 4 more steps and then we go back 3, So there is a lot more back and forth sometimes with TSW. And I will say this, you're not going to stop having flares while you're getting treatment with TCM. But what should happen over time is that you see that the flares are happening less frequently, that they're less intense, that you're recovering faster, and you get to a point where they're just less and less frequent to the point where you just don't have them. So, you've been really lucky in that, when you've had flares, they haven't been like tremendously large and taking over and setting you back completely. Like the last time I talked to you, I think you were out about biking again, and so that is a super fast recovery. So that's great, because I know that you weren't. You were kind of at home a lot of the time. And then you got to a point you were like, no, I'm biking again. And I'm like, that is fabulous. So I really love working with a lot of the TSW community because of that. I get to watch them get their life back, and I get to watch them go from a place where they're not really sure if this is ever going to get better to a place where they get that sparkle in their eye again, and they're living their life and they're happy. So that's incredibly satisfying for me to see that happen. And it's a real honor to be able to be brought into someone's life and to be able to, take that journey with them.
It's a pretty incredible journey to go along, and seeing other people that I have started going through topical steroid withdrawal after me, and seeing their journey and what's happening. And like, I haven't helped them whatsoever. I haven't done anything for them, but just watching that and following their progression is amazing just from the outside to be a part of. So being on the inside would be really incredible to be able to watch someone progress and start smiling again. I still struggle with smiling because my lips hurt, but it's coming back. It's definitely coming back. Just sort of touching on sort of the mental health sort of side of things. How do you go about sort of managing the issues that we're having? Because we're in such a volatile state at the moment. Like, one small thing can happen and we can be super depressed and suicidal even. Like, I've heard many stories, and I've had issues where I've had days where I'm just like, what's the point? And yeah, how do you sort of manage that sort of side of things for that we're going through?
Yeah, well, first I want to address that, it's really, the relationship that I build with every single patient is so intimate, so fast, because of the fact that oftentimes these emotions are so incredibly raw. And oftentimes people who are going through this are not finding a lot of other people to sort of open up to and share these feelings. So, I mean, it's really humbling to be in a situation where, people are letting me in and really sharing their deepest thoughts. And like you said, suicide is one of them. And that's oftentimes something that people don't share with their own families, right? So it's really important to me to really address that emotional, psychological aspect of it, because at the end of the day, we are people and we feel things no matter what happens to us. And when you have TSW and you're feeling all kinds of things that you never even knew you could, right? And it's something that has to be addressed as part of the treatment plan, because it's going to affect, how your treatment is going to go. It's going to affect how you feel about yourself every day, and it's going to affect, so many other things. So I think it's really important. And from a TCM perspective, we look at the whole person. You are all of these things. You are the physical being that you are the social being that you are the emotional, psychological being, you are the mental being, and even the spiritual being. And if we don't take into account all those things, then we're not really looking at your whole body and your whole being, your whole presence. So I spend a lot of time talking to patients about this because it's real. Yeah. It's something that's very much a part of this condition. And oftentimes, people are really looking to kind of unload those really heavy emotions. And sometimes just talking about it is enough. And sometimes just having somebody today what happened was a new patient came to me and they were having trouble kind of expressing what was going on. And I said to them, are you feeling like you've got a lot of ooze? Are you feeling like it's kind of crusting? Does it feel plasticky? Does it have elephant skin? And she just kind of looked at me like, how do you know what I'm feeling? How do you know? Like, that's exactly how I would explain it, but I never could find the words. And I'm like, well, this is kind of like what I hear a lot. So, are these the things that are coming up? So I think it's nice to have a language that other people understand, and to have someone talk to you in those terms. And I think that it's really important as part of the treatment plan to address all those feelings too. And there are going to be ups and downs for sure. I mean, those flares really take you to a dark place sometimes, because if you see some progress and you start to get excited, then when that's taken out from under you, all of a sudden you're like, well, am I ever going to get better? And am I going to go back to the worst place that I've ever been? And, the brain is a horrible thing in that respect, because it only it only knows what it knows already,
Yeah.
right? It cannot really think about a place in time in the future. So whenever bad things start to happen or anything, any semblance of symptoms that you had before, your brain automatically starts thinking about the worst place you've been. And so that's what PTSD is all about. And I would say easily TSW people have PTSD, and it can be really deep. So I think it's an important part of talking about it, of addressing it. And, I always want to know where you stand, because if you really are suicidal, I want to make sure that you're also getting emotional support wherever you live as well. I can't always be in every single state in every country, and I'm not an official psychiatrist or psychologist, so if I hear that these things are coming up, I want to make sure that those things are being taken care of too by other people.
Yeah, and I guess you do naturally fall into taking on that role a little bit for people. So that would be, I can imagine that would be quite taxing sometimes, watching people go through all these different emotions. So sort of just on your end, sort of how do you deal with that? Are you always trying to, as you say, just try and get people to find some help in their own from someone else, and trying to help them that way?
Well, I would say I get to do both, because while I do take this journey with you, and we, talk about the dark places that you've been, I also get to be everybody's cheerleader too, which is a lot of fun. When people come in and they tell me, that they've seen a great, like today I had a patient, she was like, Dr. Olivia, I can't tell you how much I've changed since the last time I saw you. Like, I used to be all red and I can see that definitive line on my hand, and now it's gone. And, now I feel like getting out and doing things again. And I sit there and I'm like, yay, this is fantastic. I'm so happy for you. And, I think my patients appreciate that too, that I get so excited,
Yeah.
And it really is exciting for me. I mean, I really am, my patient's best cheerleader, and I will sit there and rah-rah for them, because I just am so happy that they are having this new milestone that they didn't think could happen. And so, it makes my day. And I tell everybody that. I'm like, you just totally made my day. Thank you so much for telling me about this. And they're like, what do you mean? You made my day. I'm like, no, you made my day. We go back and forth.
I love that. And can you talk about as well, one of the first things that you said to me was, my goal is for me to put you on these things and then for me to never see you again. And so for me to get you to a position where you don't have to be on the herbs, don't have to be on if you're using the topicals, and for me to actually never see anyone again. So when you first said that, I was kind of sad, but it's like, that's the goal.
Right.
Can you talk, sort of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, my job is really to help your body work the way it's meant to work, and to really help to nudge its internal system to heal itself. And so all these herbs are meant to do that. They're not meant to, work for you. They're there to work as scaffolding, as your own body, is working towards functioning properly again. So my goal is always to get you to be 100% and to not have to see me anymore. I mean, that's the greatest thing that I can do for you, is let you go and live your life without any help, right? So yeah, I love the patients that I meet, and like I said, I do end up knowing them better than some doctors do their own patients, just because of the journey that we take together. But I'm really happy on the day that I can discharge you and say, go live your life. And if you want to send me an email once in a while and tell me how great you're living your life, awesome. But I hope I never have to see you again, right?
And it's part of the goal. It is, but it is, it is sort of, it's sad to hear it, but it is amazing that is part of the goal, is to get us to that stage. You're not sort of keeping us going on anything like that. We don't need to. We will eventually be able to be just living our lives without taking herbs and those kind of things, which is incredible. Probably the one thing that I found sort of quite surprising when we first had our first appointment was that you didn't want to change my diet at all. You didn't want to sort of mess with that or change anything around. So it's sort of, I guess, unusual for someone around sort of skin conditions to not want to change someone's diet. So why do you choose not to mess with that at all?
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons. The first reason is when we're going through the trial, I don't want to change anything because I want to make sure that if you're having any reactions, it's because of the herbs and we can identify it as the herbs rather than because we did something else, right? So the more things you change, the more complicated it is to look at the Petri dish and go, okay, what happened? Why did things change, right? The second reason why I typically don't change people's diet, and for you, we did not. There might be a few people here and there that I would, but for the most part, I would say that I haven't found them to be particularly helpful in terms of changing TSW. I would say that what typically happens, and this happens with eczema as well, is that your system becomes so overly sensitive that randomly you will find that you react to different foods, and then you eat them one time and it seems like you reacted, and then you eat them another time and you don't. So it's not really that you've had an issue with that particular food. It's just that your level of sensitivity has increased because of your skin condition. And it all goes back to, if you want to talk about chemicals, then your IgE is basically off the charts and it just makes you hypersensitive to everything. So what's the
IgE, just to clarify?
That's typically something that they measure in terms, and it's usually something that's very high when you have allergies. That number goes up when you have TSW, when you have a chronic skin condition, eczema in particular. So what I typically find is that when that number is very high, and it will be, that's when people start going, I'm not sure. I eat this food sometimes and it's a problem. Sometimes I don't eat. I do eat it and it's not a problem. So I'm not sure if it's a problem or not. So I would say it's more that you're overly sensitive. There are people every once in a while that do in fact have a specific sensitivity to a food, and when they stop eating that, then they don't have reactions. And hey, you know what? Those are the easiest patients to treat because all they have to do is stop eating that food and their skin condition goes away, and guess what? They don't need me anymore, right? But I would say more so than not, it doesn't usually play out. And I oftentimes find that a lot of people try to take things out of their diet because it's an easy thing to do. There's a lot of different diets out there that basically say that you should do these things because it lowers inflammation and whatnot. I don't really find that people are terribly successful on them. Like I said, a small percentage of people, because they have sensitivities to these foods, yes. But the majority of people I see don't seem to get that much better. And on top of that, they are suffering because they have nothing left to eat. I mean, there's so many categories of food that they're now, eliminating from their diet that they have nothing to eat. And I mean, let's be honest, if you have TSW, you're already suffering enough. You don't need to suffer in other ways. And food is one of the few things that we as a human being get to enjoy. A myriad of different tastes and different textures, unlike other animals. And so why take that away if you've got all these other things that you have to worry about already? So unless you really see a huge difference when you stop eating these things, then I would say, you know what? I don't know if that's really the best way to go.
Yeah, and I think that's worth something to chat about as well, is why do our bodies react so much when we're going through TSW before we even sort of stop using the steroids? Like my bodies would react to, I'd go to my parents' house and they have a dog, and my skin would just freak out. Or even I'd go to my mum's house who doesn't have a dog, but it's a different environment to where I live now, and my skin would just freak out there as well. So why do our bodies at that stage go really crazy, and then as we get through TSW and as we get off the steroids, and as our body gets more used to being normal again, why does that sort of sensitivity stop?
Yeah. So I would say this. Your skin is really the barrier between the outside world and your inside body, right? And its job is to basically adapt to anything that's thrown at it, essentially. So whether it's a pathogen, whether it's just an ingredient, whether it's, the change in temperature, whatnot, your skin is constantly adapting to every one of those changes. And it's deciding, what should I let in? What should I keep from coming in? What should be seen as a threat and what is not? And so it's doing all of these things for your body without being asked all the time. Now, if you have compromised skin, it can't do that anymore. It doesn't know the difference between what's a threat and what's not a threat. It doesn't know that, if the sun comes out and it's warm, that it should actually change the thermoregulation in your body, and therefore you won't react to having so much sun on you, all those different things. So we have to keep in mind that our skin is our protection from the outside world. And when it's not working properly because we have a chronic skin condition, it's not going to react right to all of those different things. And that's why we have those kinds of reactions.
Wow, yeah, because it's quite a common thing. Like my co-host Eve, we were chatting about it yesterday, and she was like, I'm not having all these wild, like, crazy reactions to things. Like, I went and had alcohol on the weekend and I was fine, and I went and stayed at my girlfriend's house, and she has a cat, and usually I have all these issues when I come from there, and I was pretty okay, which is incredible, because that's one of the hardest parts of going through topical steroid withdrawal and having this dependency and your skin being so compromised, is those changes of environments. And it's incredible to come out the other side and not worry. Like, our dogs come up to me and I can pat them now, and I'm not going to have a crazy reaction. So it is really incredible. One thing that comes up is people were trying to warn me when I was saying I'm having these amazing results from steroids. These not steroids. I'm having these amazing results from Chinese medicine, and people were like, "Be careful that she's not giving you steroids or licorice." And I was like, "How dare you even say that? She's not going to do that." But anyway, just to acknowledge that, are there any steroids in Chinese medicine, licorice, etc.? Is there any use of those things at all? And how can they sort of affect the body, I guess?
So one of the things that I wanted to do at the very beginning of treating people with TSW is to prove that everything that I use does not have steroids in it, because it was a very big concern. Mm-hmm. And so one of the people that I treated happened to have some connections with a university, and so she took my formulas or the formulas I had given her when I was treating her, as well as the topicals, and had them tested. And every single one of them came back negative. And, it was really important to me to prove from an outside party that I don't actually use anything that has steroids in it. I do think that there's a couple of people or a couple of companies out there that give Chinese medicine a bad name. And they did, in fact, put steroids into their ointments or topicals or whatnot. And the unfortunate thing is that it's one or two companies that did this, and they ruined it for everybody else who's actually doing it the right way. And, I think that's probably true of everything that we see in America, right? There's always someone who's kind of ruining it for the other people. And then, it gets a bad name. So I think that's kind of what happened. As far as like licorice, I know there's a huge debate about that, and I actually wrote a paper about that for this very reason. Yeah. And the whole reason why I wrote it was because there's this erroneous idea that licorice root has steroid-like properties that are the same as the steroids that were on these topical steroids. And what a lot of people don't understand is that steroids are a part of your human body. There's many different types, and you could not survive without them. There happens to be one, which is corticosteroids, right? Which is what topical steroids is made of. And that one is the one that, people tend to get addicted to and then have TSW from. But licorice is actually a mineral corticoid. I can't even say the word right now. It's late. And it's a very different steroid. So, people hear the word steroid and they immediately get, crazy, because they think that all steroids are the same, and that's not the case. So if you actually read my paper, it actually compares what a mineral corticoid does, and it actually does the opposite of what a corticoid steroid does, or glucose steroid does. And so as a result, it doesn't have the same function at all. It doesn't even do the same things at all. So I think it's really important to understand things on a slightly deeper level, understanding that, just because it's called a steroid does not mean it's the same kind of steroids that's going to cause topical steroid withdrawal. There are hundreds of different things that we use in our lives that allow us to be who we are. And, that one particular ingredient is the one to stay away from, but not all the others.
Yeah, okay, that's really interesting. Can you get that paper like online? Are people able to read that? I'll leave a link to that in the show notes. I actually have it on my
website, and I'll be happy to give you the link. It was actually published, and so it is, all the different supporting evidence from all the other journals that I got the information from are all, cited on it. So, you can look at everything to make sure that I did a good job and making sure that I got the good information. I did not make it up. So it's all fully supported by other sources.
Beautiful. That's perfect. That'll be really great for people to be able to understand, because it is an issue that is commonly talked about, and it's hard for people to understand if it is sort of affecting their body, or they can get dependent on it and those kind of things as well. I think that's pretty much everything that I had to ask. So thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me and taking the time after work. So I know it's getting late there now. To chat to me, so I really, really appreciate it. And you've been amazing to chat to, and so amazing for the TSW community. So on behalf of everyone, I just want to say thank you, and I really hope that some people can get some insight and some great sort of knowledge out of this episode as well.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. And like I said, I really love working with the TSW community for so many different reasons, especially because there's not a lot of other resources out there. And if I can help in any way, I'm happy to do that. So thanks again for having me on. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And Jordan, I want to get you to 100%. So we got a little bit more work to do, but I think you're getting there very, very quickly.
Definitely. I don't think I'm too far away. It's I've seen amazing changes in the last couple of weeks, so it's I think we're getting close. So thank you, and I'll chat to you soon.
Okay, sounds good.
That was so amazing to listen to. I think I'm in love with Dr. Olivia. She is just incredible, honestly. Every single part, I'm hanging on to every word she would say. She's so intelligent. It's crazy. But I'm excited to hear from Chris now.
Yeah, me too. It was great to, even though Dr. Olivia's been my doctor, my dermatologist for 4 months now, I think, or maybe even a little bit longer. It was great to sort of go in depth in a lot of those topics with her as well. And then, now to back it up with Chris, because she's been amazing for me, but I would love to hear from someone else, because I haven't had a chance to chat to any other of her patients. So really great to hear from Chris and how he's gone through the process as well. So we'll get into the chat with Chris, and then at the end we will talk about at the end, and we'll go through Eve's takeaway points, I guess. I'm here with Chris, also known as Topical Roid Rage on Instagram and TikTok. Welcome to the show, Chris. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you, Jordan. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, mate. And you are looking fantastic, mate. I am so jealous. I'm pretty sure the rest of the TSW community is jealous. We're all looking at you and being like, that's where we're going to be one day.
You all will be. I'm rooting for all of you guys. I'm watching every single one of you that I can.
Yeah, and I appreciate the support. You've just just before we got on here, you just said you've been following my journey, and I do appreciate the support as well. It does help knowing that there's someone out there who's gotten through it supporting me, so that's I appreciate it. And so after 18 months of going through TSW, Chris was able to say he was fully recovered on his TikTok. And what was sort of most amazing though was that the 16-month period, a lot of his skin looked like it was at the start of the topical steroid withdrawal period, and he just had this sort of crazy turnaround. And for those of you who are listening,
He looks amazing at the moment. So as I've already said, so you can hear the jealousy in my voice. But I just wanted to start with your social media name, Topical Roid Rage. I think it's brilliant, and I just wanted to hear the story behind it.
Thanks. Thanks for bringing that one up. Well, so I love puns, and I like plays on words, I should say. And so using roid rage that typically goes through people who use anabolic steroids, I came up with the idea of just adding topical to it, since I was so mad about the condition that I was going through with TSW that I was like, I'm angry and I need to raise awareness. So even in my bio everywhere, I write raging awareness about topical steroid withdrawal.
It works perfect, because we really are like going through like an angry process when we're going through it. So I think it is perfect in many ways. You're angry at the doctor system for accidentally putting you in this position, and then you're angry that there's not enough awareness out there, and then your body is just angry as it is.
Yep.
So I think that's awesome.
Yep. And then there's just one more thing I wanted to add, that from a psychological standpoint, that holding in anger actually is how depression forms. So let yourself be angry. If you're going through TSW, let that anger out. Don't withhold it. Don't hold it in, because that's how depression forms.
Yeah, and I think that's incredible to think about, because I absolutely have no idea that's what sort of anger would lead to. And it is so easy to end up in a depressive state when you're going through a skin condition or any sort of chronic issue like TSW or whatever. It is important to sort of try and stay out of that depressed state, because that just makes it so much harder than it already is. And I just wanted to sort of hear about your sort of journey from going to like getting into sort of a stage of TSW. Like, did you start like the same way that a lot of people have through eczema, or has it sort of come through a different route?
Well, with me, it was kind of, so my wife and I were in Poland. Both of our families are from Poland, still lots of families still in Poland. And suddenly I had nasal congestion, and I was basically sneezing a lot. And what I ended up doing was taking an over-the-counter antihistamine called Allegra, which is the actual medicine name is phenofexidine, I believe. And so what ended up happening was, after 2 months, I started getting splotches on my arms, and they were really itchy. And so my wife and I decided to go to an immunologist after that to find out what was going on. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, those are hives." And basically, she gave me topical steroids to apply on them. And as they started to spread, because the topical steroids would just make them go away for like a day or two. And they'd pop back up and they would spread some more, because I was continuing to use the over-the-counter antihistamine, and she told me to continue using it. And so as it spread, she goes, keep using it. And that was the topical steroid that she gave me, was a 1 pound tub of triamcinolone, which is a mid-grade strength topical steroid. And what ended up happening was I as it spread, those hives spread, I started using it all over my body, except for my face. So from neck down to my feet. And eventually, after 10 months, I got sick of it, and one day in the shower, it just popped up into my head, maybe I'm allergic to the antihistamine. So I stopped the antihistamine, hives go away, and I was like, why do I need the topical steroids? I was using them for the hives. So I stopped those, and then body went absolutely haywire, just completely red, oozing, itching down to the bone, stinging, burning. It was, I mean, you know what goes on. So at that point, my wife and I were like, what is going on?
Yeah, I can imagine. It's that when that first starts happening, you tend to freak out a little bit. You're like, what is happening to my body? Because you don't hear of TSW, you don't hear of that kind of issue, and especially to come through it in a route where. So, did you have any eczema or anything like that as a kid? Like, did you have any sort of skin conditions?
No, I had allergies, but never any skin conditions. No.
Yeah, and that's amazing that it's all been sort of induced by medication. Like that's incredible to hear, because there's a lot of, I think, sort of around TSW, most people sort of think it comes from a skin condition, but it's really interesting to hear that it can come without even having a previous history of it, which is just, really wild. So can you just sort of tell us about sort of how long it's really taken you to heal, and sort of the different journeys you've had over that sort of 18-month period, and what ended up helping you heal as well?
So initially what happened was, when we found out about TSW, I went through my first flare-up, and it took about 3 weeks, and it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was really painful, but it wasn't too bad compared to what happened next. So I went through my first flare-up, and then we went to Poland for a short vacation. And while in Poland, I also had brought with me some oral steroids. So in case anything happened, because I thought I was done, and that took 3 weeks. I thought I was done. I'm healed. All right, let's get moving on with my life. Then in Poland, we're out camping, and so I started to flare up again, and I wasn't aware of flare-ups yet, and it just got really bad. And at that point, I took the oral steroids because we were out camping, and when I got back in those oral steroids, I used the last oral steroid. My face just, in my earlier videos you'll see, but I was just like flaking off all this skin all over, and we had to extend our trip by a week. I was bedridden, just laying there in so much pain. And so basically from that point on, I kind of felt like I knew what flare-ups were, but I kind of felt like I've had this really, really long journey. And so since that happened, it's just been this really long journey with flare-ups in between. And basically that took a total, I'd say 18 months, but around month 16 is when I actually revisited and saw one of your videos about traditional Chinese medicine and how they were helping you. And I had heard about your specific doctor, who's now my doctor. And basically I was like, well, let me revisit her. Maybe there's something to it, because I had been to so many doctors, and one of them was homeopathic, and he told me to continue taking topical steroids as he was giving me acupuncture. So I was kind of like, this is a joke. And that's why I was kind of like, man, you know what, this is my last shot at something. So I tried, because I saw that you were having such good results. And ever since then, after month 16 to month 18, everything just healed up like magic. It's been incredible.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I can't believe that. And so you put that all down to the herbs with Dr. Olivia.
Well, I think I was probably towards the latter part of my journey. Or towards the end of my journey, and so I think that helped a lot too. But I for 100%, I'd say after the 5th day of taking the herbs and drinking them, I take them every 12 hours. I've actually got the vacuum pack here. This is what I drink every 12 hours. And after 5 days, all of my inflammation gone, all of my itchiness gone. Oozing still existed on my feet, and I have documentation of that on social media. Like, there were some trouble spots, but overall it was like, man, night and day. All of a sudden, all these symptoms just gone. So I would say 75% was the herbs, and 25% was me being towards the end of my journey.
Wow. Yeah. It's pretty amazing. And I do have to say, I've had sort of similar things where you'd tell Dr. Olivia like what you're going through, and she'll be like, oh yeah, I'll put something together for that. And when you first get it, you're like, okay, we'll see how this really goes. And it actually like clears up. Like, I had dampness on my legs, and within a couple of days, the dampness was gone after taking the herbs. Just incredible. Absolutely incredible. Did you have any sort of fears that when you were sort of going into Chinese medicine, like any sort of skepticism or fears about like trying it?
No, it was more about wasting time and money. You know, we try so many things going through this condition that you don't want another letdown. And so that was my main concern. However, I did read a few articles where some doctors will get their herbs and they will not check if they are free of heavy metals. So I have read, I have read about that, and she actually, from what I see here, they're sourced or checked by a third party if they do, if those herbs have that. And then I've Google mapped the location. I've looked up the place. It doesn't seem shady or anything in New York City where the herbs come from. So I did a little bit of research there, but that was my main concern, was just not to be used and tossed around like all these other doctors have done.
Yeah. And what did you find sort of different, I guess, about Dr. Olivia?
Oh my God. I mean, I can't say enough good things about her. She's just, from the moment I started talking to her, it was like every other doctor was max 10 minutes out the door, out. You have severe eczema, get out. Looked at you, I know what you got, get out. No asking me what my diet is, no asking me how I sleep, none of this stuff. Dr. Friedman talked about how I'm breathing, how much I'm sweating, what I'm eating, how often I'm sleeping, how much sleep do I get. Then the pictures were so that we have to send 24 hours prior, are so detailed from top to bottom. Your tongue, which I don't understand. Obviously, that has something to do with traditional Chinese medicine, but your tongue, the sides of your face, your hands, your palms, the bottom of your feet, your legs, everything, your whole torso. It's just so detailed. And the fact that she took the time to sit there and talk to me about all this stuff for like 45 minutes. I had never been seen by a doctor for that long. All of them were like, get out, you know, here's these drugs, take them, get out. And that's it.
Yeah. I found the exact same thing. She was truly the first person the first medical professional I ever went to that properly wanted to understand what was going on and probably did understand what was going on. She's like now specializing a lot in TSW. That's what she says she works with mostly, but she does the same process with all different skin conditions as well. So I think, it's just incredible to have that person and just that support as well. Like my GP, my sort of doctor that I was seeing here as well. She's been incredible. And she's been really supportive, which is what I've needed, that person here in person to see. But she just it's impossible for her to know the knowledge of TSW like Dr. Olivia does, because she properly does specialize in skin and Chinese medicine dermatology. So yeah, same thing. It's incredible, just incredible to have that person to help guide you through. One thing I wanted to chat about was you have put up this video, and it's just sent pain through my body when I watched it. It was after you'd had a shower, and your just entire body came out like bright red. Could you tell us about that a bit?
Yeah, so that was after. So I'd say that was from the very beginning of my TSW journey. My body just could not handle water. It just couldn't handle it. And so it was like acid. Every drop of water, even just washing hands. My hand washing was like this underneath the faucet, like quick in and out. Because otherwise, and if I kept the water on my hands, it would start turning red and burning. So I really felt like I needed to show people that this is what a lot of TSW people go through. My showers were... The only way I got through showers was I found out a method that if you count down in your head, you can actually last through pain longer if you know when the pain is going to end. So that was my method, was for 120 seconds I'll last, and that way I'll get my 2 minutes down and basically just ran in, got wet everywhere I needed to, lather up where I needed to, and just jumped out as quick as I could. But no matter what, even if I was in there for 10 seconds and I would have done that, I would be just as red, and I would just be in so much pain. And then on top of that is the drying period after the shower, is where I felt like on Fantastic Four, that orange rock guy, I forgot his name. That I felt like my skin was like that, where I'm just this rock, and and everything is just crackling and turning dry, and that was painful, and that would last for a day until my oil started coming back a little bit, and it wouldn't be as painful. But then it would just be repeat, because I would take a shower every 2 to 3 days, just to kind of stop from having any kind of bacteria on me or whatever, and wash up my body, basically.
Yeah. The orange rock guy is how I describe myself as well. I don't know his name, but he's exactly what I feel like, and I felt I look like just with that cracks in your skin. It's funny. So did you have any sort of like I guess fears around getting into the shower when you had to? Like, were you sort of scared about getting in there and trying to avoid it?
Yeah, I mean, eventually what ended up happening is, I mean, my wife could tell you, I would procrastinate so long when I knew I needed to take a shower. I would do everything but take a shower. And then finally, when I would be in front of the shower, I would just like stare. And sometimes I'd turn on the water and just stare at it, naked, alone in the shower, staring at the water. And then finally, I'd just be like, I just need to do it. Just start counting down. And I would count down, jump in, and get out. And even after all of this healing has finished up, I still have a little bit of that left, where I kind of have this fight or flight syndrome, but it's not as bad. And every time I go into the shower, it's a little bit less now that I get out, and I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Everything's fine. It's back to normal. So I'm reconditioning the brain that water is not bad.
Yeah, so you got a little bit of PTSD sort of, I guess, coming from that. Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a similar thing for me. I don't have pain when I get into the shower. I'm so lucky. Like the last time I went through TSW 5-6 years ago, I did have pain in water. But this time around, I've got super lucky. But that drying period after is so painful as well. So I can sort of feel your pain, I guess, in that drying period. And I'm scared about getting in the shower. It's honestly, like, I'm standing there and I'm like, oh no, I have to shower now, and I know it's going to be painful after, but I got to do it. So I do go days on end without showering, as well. Did you, like, before the Chinese medicine, you mentioned homeopathy, was there anything else that you tried as well?
By the time that happened, the homeopathic doctor that I went to, I didn't know about TSW yet.
Okay.
I was still in the process of trying to figure out what was going on. Obviously, because I actually was still applying the topical steroids, and he's like, oh yeah, I keep applying the topical steroids. I'm like, but this rash keeps coming back and spreading. And he's like prickling me, putting in the needles for the acupuncture. He's like, oh yeah, I keep using the topical steroids. So, beyond that, no, I didn't. I just tried different diets. I just tried eating healthy. I tried eating whole foods. Tried various diets, so basically vegetarian, and then I went to Eat Right for Your Blood Type. I don't know if you've heard of that. And then did carnivore diet for a month, but I had really bad constipation from that, because I was also doing NMT at the time, so I was not drinking enough water, plus doing carnivore diet. And then I had other digestive issues from that, and to heal that, I had to do Eat Right for Your Blood Type. That healed that up, but and then finally, I did do celery juice for 3 months. I drank 32 ounces of celery juice every single morning. My wife got up and washed and juiced celery stalks, and I drank that for 3 months. And I do feel like that helped a ton. I kind of felt like my skin got more supple from that. Not everywhere, but in certain places like my arms and legs, it got more supple. And then I started having I should just say I just had diarrhea, and at that point I knew I was done drinking the celery, because it would just pass through my body. But before that, for 3 months, everything was solid, so I continued drinking it. Yeah,
okay, your body's been through so many ups and downs in so many different ways to get through that, and it's sort of, I guess, now with Dr. Olivia, is she sort of helping you with that kind of stuff, like getting your body to sort of more of a state of normal?
So honestly, after I healed up, I kind of binged on a bunch of stuff, because I had been eating so healthy for so long, And like, not to say that it's good what I did, but I mean, I probably ate Taco Bell, Wendy's, pizza, a couple pizzas right afterwards, and my bowels have been fine. Everything's been fine. Yeah. So other than that, like, she just basically asked me to let her know after my first batch of teas that I got whether or not I was just passing them through the body, because she didn't want that. She wanted me to be solid, like with all other foods. And once I gave her the thumbs up, then everything was good after that. And even alcohol, I'll drink here now and again, and which is funny because I actually a month into drinking the teas and being healed up, my friends took me out to celebrate a little bit.
Yeah.
And I thought I was fine. I drank and then came home. I thought I was fine, but I woke up, threw up. And then the next morning I had an appointment with her, and I told her, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I drank, I threw up. I'm like, that's probably not good for while taking these teas. And she laughed and she's like, no, I'm so happy that you went out and you celebrated the wins, because you don't get very many wins with TSWs. She's like, it's so good for your mental health. I'm so happy that you did that. So another thing to love her about, like another doctor would be like wagging his finger at you. You shouldn't drink,
Yeah, she's great like that. She's really super supportive of what we're going through in there, and like the mental side as well. When we talked about that when I interviewed her, she was she almost becomes like a psychologist without being a psychologist, and she really gets to support people through the journey. But she absolutely loves being their cheerleader as well at the end. So it is really awesome. Do you have any, like, now that you've sort of gone through all these ups and downs and processes that you've gone through, do you have any recommendations for other people going through TSW?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing I would have to say is most helpful is time, and then what you really need to hone in on your instincts. And you need to find out what works best for you, because you've had great success with carnivore diet. I have not. And I think everybody's body is different. We can't treat it as one, just like these doctors are with topical steroids. Everyone's the same, topical steroids done. No, I think Western society has really suffocated our instincts and our intuition, and we don't listen to it. All they say is, look at the science, look at the science, look at the science. Well, no, sometimes it's what I feel, and you don't feel it, so you don't know. So I would say time. I would say follow your instincts, your intuition. If, say, you tried celery, I'd say go for it. Try these different diets, and what works best for you, stick with it. If it feels good, and you can tell, you're the first person who's going to know whether you feel good or not.
Yeah.
So listen to your body. Try out the different things like celery juice or the different diets like we've tried. And stick with the stuff that works best for you, and time. And then also, I'm a huge fan of traditional Chinese medicine now, so I have to say, I have to plug Dr. Olivia, or if you find another traditional Chinese medicine doctor, go with them. But just be careful, because just like with doctors, there's good doctors and bad doctors. There's people out there who are scam artists as well. They'll sell you snake oil and promise you good health, but that's just not always the case. And she's actually one of 121 TCM doctors in the world who specializes in dermatology. One out of 121. That is, minuscule.
Not many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the brilliant thing about her is she's online, so no matter where you are in the world, you can see her. So that is the amazing thing about what she provides, and she's a specialist. So I for me, it's always like, go find yourself a doctor, but find someone who specializes in whatever you're going through, whether it be skin or whether it be mental health or whatever. Having that person that is actually someone who is a specialist it'll definitely give you a better chance of actually succeeding as well.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your sort of story with us, and all of everything you've gone through, and being so open and honest with everything as well. It's been so great to have you, and I'm just so excited to see that you're looking amazing and being able to shower without coming out in pain.
Yeah, thank you. That's probably the best part about it. I appreciate it so much. Just this past weekend, I went into the ocean for the first time since all of this, and it was just an amazing experience. I was so grateful and thankful. Yeah, so thank you again, Jordan, for having me on, and thank you for letting me share my story and raising awareness, because you are a hero amongst us. I mean, you have so much good content out there. You are teaching the world about topical steroid withdrawal, so I commend you for that. You're doing an awesome job.
Thank you. For me, I can't say that I'm a hero. I definitely have my heroes that are around me, like my partner, Dr. Olivia, and all those other incredible people out there. But likewise, mate, you are doing incredible things for awareness too. It's just, I'm getting comments on my social media being like, check out Topical Roid Rage. It's great to talk about with these things. So I think it's incredible what you're doing. So I really appreciate those kind words. It means a lot.
Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Ciao. We'll see you soon.
Well, that was so good to hear from Chris after Dr. Olivia as well. It's incredible to hear from someone who in the TSW community who hasn't started from having eczema. He said he has had allergies, but he'd never had like eczema or anything like that, and was completely introduced by sorry, to the people listening. God. But it was just wild to hear from someone who didn't initially have skin issues, and he's ended up with eczema from topical steroids.
Definitely. And I think the fact that he went, he had that allergic reaction from using antihistamines, and to treat the allergic reaction from using antihistamines, they then use a steroid, which is another suppressant. It's so crazy to me. But I mean, I literally can't even imagine how, because obviously we've grown up with eczema, so we kind of know what having serious skin issues feels like. But for someone who's literally never experienced something like that, and then just all of a sudden has to go through that, is so scary. God, my Siri is now triggering for some reason. Thank you so much.
It's so true. We over our life, for us especially, because we've had it since we were a kid. We've had 20 odd years of built up pain tolerance, and whereas someone like Chris is sort of all of a sudden just copying it out of nowhere, it would be quite a shock to the system, I imagine.
Definitely.
It'd be that'd be brutal. And I actually, the other day, he was talking about how he got to swim in the ocean, and I just watched his video of swimming in the ocean the other day, and I was nearly in tears watching that, because that for me it's what I am dreaming of. That's once I can go swim in the ocean, that's when I've healed. I'm so excited. I got a beach literally 20 meters from my house that I just stare at all the time. I'm like, I want to swim.
That's torture.
But it is. But his video was really. If you guys want to have a look, jump on and it's really heart wrenching. It was really great. But another thing that I thought was really interesting about what he chatted about was how depression is a built up anger. And I just I've been thinking about that over the last few days. Whenever I've been frustrated at something, I'm like, okay, should I try and let this out now? Or it's kind of, because you suppress it a lot. I'm like, should I just go crazy right now?
Just go find somewhere quiet and just scream. That's sometimes what I felt like doing, for sure.
Definitely. So what did you take out of, or should we start with Dr. Olivia and chat about her? What did you really take out and find interesting from what Dr. Olivia had to say?
Yeah, sure. So, by the way, guys, if you're watching this, I have notes. I've made notes. So I'm going to look back and forth probably a little bit. But the main thing that I kind of took from Dr. Olivia is the fact that she treats the problem rather than just solving the issue on a surface level. So the fact that she, almost heals you from the inside out, using teas and your herbs and everything like that is so incredible to see that it's not, with Western medicine, it's always just how can we solve the problem quickly and you move on with your life and we don't have to see you again, kind of thing. And keeping people on lifelong medication, churning through, each person so quickly, whereas like Dr. Olivia really takes the time to listen to everything that you've got to say, and all of the different kind of side effects that you're feeling, and then she'll cater to those different side effects and almost like create like a special herb different for everybody. And I just think that's so incredible that Chinese medicine can do that. And so that was probably like the biggest takeaway for me, was that it's so tailored to each person, which is incredible.
It's the way that medicine should be, because like rather giving everyone just a blanket thing is like steroids. How can we say that everyone is the exact same? We should all use this one drug to try and fix it. It just that the way that humans are, that just doesn't make any sense at all based on everything we say. We grow up all our lives, everyone telling us, everyone's different, we're all individual, and then we go to a doctor and we all use the exact same medicine. Like it just
it's crazy.
It doesn't make
like
sense.
How can we look so different on the outside and be made up so chemically, especially like women and men, even just that, like we are so different chemically, we are completely different as humans, but yet we're using the same medicines to treat these illnesses, which everybody, and especially with TSW, with topical steroid withdrawal, the symptoms are so different for everyone, and one symptom that you have I might not have, so how can we treat it the same? It's impossible.
Definitely.
And the fact that steroid, and something that I find really interesting is the fact that steroids are used to treat so many different illnesses that have so many different side effects. And it's just that one blanket steroid that's used for everybody, and that's also just a bit crazy to me. But
I know, it's wild. Yeah, it's like when I had my skin that was really damp, like it'd be crazy to use the exact same medicine on the damp skin that I do when on my skin that's looking good. Like, yeah, if I was to continue to using the herbs that were designed to try and get rid of the dampness, then the rest of my body wouldn't be able to, or once that had cleared, my body wouldn't be able to start becoming more moist. And so the way that it's designed is it's designed to dry out those areas so it can heal, and then once it's like dried out, then you can use Chinese medicine to make your skin more moist again, and also other things. Like she's helping with sleep. I've actually with the tea that I've been having lately, I've been able to start sleeping like a normal person again, which has just been amazing. Like incredible. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Like she's like, oh yeah, I'm going to put some things in to help you sleep. And it's like life-changing, honestly.
I'm so jealous, honestly. And I think about now, like, even though, so obviously I would say like probably 70% healed at this point.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, like, how much quicker would I have healed if I decided to go through like Chinese medicine? And like, obviously, my sleep was like the worst part about the whole situation, like the whole of topical steroid withdrawal, and the fact that she's able to help you with that is just absolutely incredible. And it just shows that it does work. And like, I think a lot of people are so skeptical, but I guess one of my other major takeaways was, how often does Western medicine not work for people? It's like a normal thing. Like you'll try something and it won't work for you, but it'll work for somebody else. And I feel like people need to take that approach with Chinese medicine and say, okay, well, it might not work for you, but it could work for somebody else. And it's exactly the same as Western medicine, but it's given such a bad rep because it might not work for one person, but it's just the same as Western medicine.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, oh, well, it's not scientific. Oh, that's bullshit. Like, it's been a science. Like, people have been working the same way they do to create, like, to understand, like, science for thousands of years with Chinese medicine. Science is just trial and error. Like, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they just try a bunch of shit and see if it works. And then if it doesn't, then they try something else. Like, isn't that the same as what Chinese medicine has done? It just dumbed down to a basic form. And yeah, it just like, it's confusing because we will go and like, we'll try a steroid and then the steroid doesn't work. So we try a stronger steroid and the stronger steroid doesn't work, but we'll just keep doing it. Whereas we look at Chinese medicine being like, oh, that's not science. That's not it's like unlikely it's going to work. We won't even bother trying it. Whereas it's highly unlikely that our drugs that we're using aren't going to work as well. Exactly. That's a really good takeaway.
And I think, even with sort of in the UK, I so wish that you could get Chinese, like at least try Chinese medicine on the NHS, because we can use the NHS can fund things like Dupixent, which is okay, this is a controversial opinion, and if you're using Dupixent, please skip ahead because I don't need the hate, all right? But but with things like Dupixent, in my opinion, that's just another dependency on a different drug, but yet they can fund that, but they can't fund something that's going to find the root of the problem and could potentially be life-changing for some people. And that, I wish that they would open up, the NHS to things like, alternative healing methods, but maybe they will one day.
Crazy. It's crazy that Dupixent, which is just another drug that's suppressing our immune system, is on there, but we something that could actually fix a problem forever is, and we won't have to rely on it, is not on there. So it's just, we could go on a whole topic on that and start talking about the things like it doesn't make any money if we get healed and all that kind of stuff. Like that's a topic for another day that we could probably go real deep into.
I feel like we need like a conspiracies episode where it's like us real deep diving into all of that kind of stuff. But no, it's just, with Western medicine, like with Dr. I think she said it in the interview about how with Chinese medicine, and you were saying, you can target the dampness and then treat the dampness and then treat the dryness. So you can really treat specific problems that with different medicines, whereas with the Western medicine, with the steroids, that is one drug that treats everything. It targets everything. So any of the kind of good, like with antibiotics, any of the good, what's the word that I'm looking for? Bacteria. Any of the good bacteria gets kicked out with all the bad bacteria too. Whereas with Chinese medicine, you can just target the bad bacteria, etc., etc., etc. It's the same with all different types. And I just found that so interesting. It's something that I'd never thought of before, is the fact that obviously with the steroids, it's suppressing all of your cortisol, whereas with the Chinese medicine, it's not doing that. And I just think it's so interesting. And why did I never think of that before? It should open my eyes.
It is brilliant to be able to really customize it to based on what's going on, and it's so many different things that she looks at. Like she looks at your tongue and like tries to understand your sleep and your lifestyle and all these different things to just try and understand what is going on with your body, because all those like random little questions that she asks end up giving her an answer as to what formula to create, which is really, really incredible.
Definitely. And I think when you were kind of doing like the fan questions, I made a couple of notes on that too, because I love the way that she makes topical steroid withdrawal seems like a personality, like a whole entity in itself that's separate from you. Like it's like this thing that has like come and attacked you almost, and she treats it like a thing. I don't know, like she really she really like personalizes it, and I love that so much. And I think the fact, that she's saying that she's providing, mental support for people going through TSW, even though she's not a psychologist, is just incredible. The fact that people feel they can trust her so much to even open up to her about, the mental side of things, I think is incredible. I think she's just such a great woman. I just aspire to be like her.
It is, the mental side has been great, because you can, I guess you start to feel comfortable with someone once you start telling them about all your issues. So you're being really vulnerable, and then you're able to sort of chat about, it's quite easy to chat to her about your sort of mental issues and that kind of stuff going on as well. And she's so understanding and super, like, just, I don't know if the right word is comforting, but like she just makes you feel comfortable with talking about what's going on. And as she said, like, she hears all the bad parts, but then she is like a mega cheerleader as well things start going well as well. So she gets to really, she goes on all in on that journey with you. And quite a few times I've gone well over time just chatting to her about everything. So yeah, she's wonderful to chat to. And then did you have anything else that you really wanted to sort of chat about from Dr. Olivia?
No, I just think, just to go on a little bit more on the whole like empathy side of things, it's just nice to see a doctor who actually cares. Because when you go to the doctor at like your regular GP, they just go, here's some more steroids, like I hope you don't have suicidal thoughts whilst you're using them, like, or like, you know, just all of this. They don't care. They're just there to give you the steroids. Do you know what I mean? And here's a 9-month waiting list for some therapy, which you'll probably be healed by the time you even get there. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's insane. But that's, kind of my final take on that.
And just on that, there definitely are doctors out there that are super empathetic, and they are like, but it just, if you go to your, like in general, like you do get that feeling where you're in there and out, and it's a doctor that doesn't really understand what's going on, or hasn't seen you before, and that kind of thing. They're not really going in depth to really understand you. And whereas from day dot, Dr. Olivia straight away was really wanting to understand who I was, which is a big difference. Yeah,
and I just want to say, obviously, you know, I do appreciate doctors have, the reason it's like that is because they have very little time to treat people. It's not like, it's not their fault personally, it's just the whole system. It's not, you know, it's not a particular doctor, it's just they only have like 5 minutes for an appointment. So you can understand they wouldn't be able to go in depth about your psychology and stuff like that. So yeah, just prefacing, I'm not hating on doctors, just the system.
The systems, it hasn't been set up to really treat these things properly. And then, to hear from Chris as well, how did you find that? Like, you listened to Dr. Olivia first, and then heard from someone who actually went through the issues, and went through working with her. How did you sort of find what Chris had to say?
Do you know what? It was almost like I felt so happy that you guys like got to speak to each other, because I bet it was so nice to be able to like have someone else who's gone through the same process of Dr. Olivia. I was like listening to her and I was like, but I think one of the like main takeaways I had with Chris was the diets. Like I've gone through TSW, and I mean, I've said it when we did our episode. I've just been raw dogging it the whole time. Like, I had no plan. I just kind of was like, I'm just gonna see how this goes. And I never changed my diet. It wasn't something that I ever
which is awesome
doing. Yeah, I think very much like, I always feel like you're gonna heal kind of no matter what you do. Most people do heal no matter what they do. Like I feel like what you the kind of nutrients that reach your gut is a very small part of TSW, so I've just never touched on it. But hearing about him doing like the blood type diet, and you know doing all the celery juice and everything like that, and how all the crazy things that you do to try and heal yourself, is just crazy. And like obviously he's had good results with it, but that was like super interesting for me to listen to.
It's and it's one of the first places that a lot of people go and get suggestions of when they start talking about what they're going through with someone. People will automatically start to say, oh, why don't you try this diet? Why don't you try that diet? And it's a common area to go straight away. But I think it's so great to hear from you that you are healing without doing it as well. And just you're sort of like proof in the pudding, I guess, that it's... TSW is not necessarily, it's a whole nother thing. It's not necessarily related to your internals and your gut and all that kind of stuff that's going on. It's this super suppression that we put in our bodies over years and years that needs to sort of come out and heal naturally as the body would. So I think it's great to hear from you, having not done those diets, but it is crazy what we will do to try and like drinking celery every single day, like heaps and heaps of celery is like what Chris did. And he said it helped for a bit, which is amazing. I've had a million comments on socials saying, try medical medium.
Oh, me and medical medium. I've never met the guy, and I'm sure he's great, but I could honestly, I can't. I've actually blocked the words medical and medium off my TikTok comments and my Instagram comments. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't listen to it anymore.
Yeah.
I can't. But no, I'm sure, and I'm sure it does work for some people, but I do think with TSW, because it's a drug withdrawal, you can't heal
it's
a drug
different.
Withdrawal. Like, you can't. Like,
Yeah.
You just have to go through it. You know, that's like saying to someone, you know, who was a heroin addict, have you tried heroin? Like, you can't. Like, you got people comment saying, have you tried steroids? And I'm like, have you not watched a single one of my videos?
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, we're going off topic. But
yeah, I guess that's like, I haven't thought about that. If we on the TSW, on the topical steroids, when someone comments, "Oh, you should try Dupixent," like if you're on heroin, like, "Oh, you should try cocaine instead." Like it's just, oh, it's not as bad for you, cocaine. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, not. Oh, lost an AirPod. No, it's very much. That's exactly when I said, "Have you tried heroin?" Yeah, have you tried cocaine? Literally, it's the same. Like, you would never tell a drug addict to go and try a different drug to suppress it. It just seems really stupid, but there you go. That's just how it is.
And just on those sort of diets and things, I think they can potentially help for eczema if you haven't got TSW. Like, those kind of things, I think they can potentially help those. But if you've got TSW, it's very unlikely you're going to see any crazy differences. Like, I've tried carnivore, and I'm sort of doing a form of carnivore diet now, and that has helped. I feel like it maybe has helped with my skin, but I honestly doubt it. What it has helped me with, though, is my overall energy to get through TSW. Like, I'm able to get through each day much better now that I tried that. So that's where it has helped me. But on the skin side of things, yeah, maybe it's helped. But I also, I'm not putting it down to my sort of recovery that I'm having. I'm not putting it down to that, because I think it's more the natural progression, and then it being helped to speed along from things like the Chinese medicine to fix certain areas that I'm having issues with as I'm going through my recovery process. So yeah, absolutely. The diets were sort of wild to hear from, and I first time I went through TSW, I tried every goddamn different diet, like a low histamine diet. I tried one called the Eczema diet from Karen Fisher. It's a book, so I tried that, which was like a low salicylates diet. So it is a natural thing to go down, but it's not necessarily going to help too much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just going back to Chris, something else that I wanted to kind of touch on was his shower experience, because I have never seen anything like it. I've been really lucky in that I only had pain in the shower for maybe 3 or 4 months, but he described it so well in that it feels like you're being showered by acid. Because the feeling of, and I don't know, I've never experienced, like, you know, if you have like a little cut or something and you go in the sea and it really stings, it kind of feels like you're bathing yourself in seawater, but you're not, it's just regular water. And I'd love to know why TSW feels so painful with just regular water. But his reaction when he came out the shower, the redness, the rawness,
I couldn't believe it.
So painful.
Yeah.
And
it looked like he'd put it on like full heat. Like, I don't think he had it, but it looked like he'd just stood under there with no cold water, just full hot water, and it was all just like bright red blotches. It was unbelievable.
I can't, honestly. And I think, you know, it just shows that TSW does genuinely affect every single part of your life. Like, you cannot do any part of your regular routine the same. You dread waking up because there's flakes in your bed. You dread getting out of bed because it hurts. You dread your morning stretch because you snap a bit of skin whilst you're putting your arm up in the air. You dread having a shower. You dread eating. Like, it's just impossible. Like, how are you ever supposed to function as a regular human being? And I think, I just like the way that he described that. And, you know, and it's great to see that now he doesn't experience that pain anymore. And it does just show that it does get better. But it's impossibly hard.
It is, and you're right, it does affect every part of your life. Like, I still hate showering. Like, I still will only I'll do it every few days. Like I'll go, like yesterday, I went for a long bike ride. I was out on the bike for like 6 or 7 hours, and I came home and I was like, I don't want to shower. And so I preferred to get some baby wipes and clean the stinky parts. And then I was like, I don't want to do it because it is so like, I get like getting in is all right, but getting out, it is excruciating. Like for me, the drying, whereas Chris, he's so unlucky. And it is, I don't know if it's necessarily super common, but it is, like, it does happen to a lot of people that I have spoken to, is like the whole time he's getting in the shower and getting out of the shower, he's just going through immense pain. I don't know if you ever had it, like when I first went through TSW years ago, I got in a bath, and it was the first time that I tried to have a bath, and my entire body, it was like all the nerve endings just went like wild. I had this crazy pain and I just couldn't handle it. And I looked it up after, and it was like quite common for people with TSW, if once they're submerged in water, for their bodies just to freak out.
Yeah, I've had it.
Did you have that at all?
Yeah, I think I had it a couple. The first couple baths I had that just awful, god awful pain, and then I think it just subsided maybe like a month in or something, because I was like, nope, the baths aren't for me. I was like, I'm not doing it. That was really painful. Not doing it again. And then about a month in, I was desperate, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try the baths again. And for some reason, it didn't feel that painful anymore. So, but then moving from baths to showers, I had the same thing, and it's similar to Chris. It literally felt like I was showering in acid, and I just remember getting in. I would stand underneath the shower, and I'd just go like this, and I'd be like just that horrible, like tensing your entire body pain, and it would feel sick. And then once that initial pain was out of the way, it would be fine. Like it was just the initial like stinging, and then once that was all I was completely covered in wet, it was fine. So I can see like how it's really painful. But for Chris, it just seems to be like that was just the hardest part for him, and I just it's not pleasant when you feel dirty and you can't wash yourself.
No, it's kind of gross.
But it's just part of the process. I mean, I washed my hair today, and I just had a moment of I normally wash my hair upside down so the shampoo and conditioner and stuff doesn't get in my body, and I was like, I'm just gonna see how it goes, gonna have a shower like regularly, wash my hair normally. I got in and there was no pain, and the shampoo
incredible.
didn't sting me, and I put my shower, I can see like the degrees on my shower, like when I turn it on. I normally have it on 36, which is like basically cold, like it's just not even a little bit warm, it's just cold. And then I turned it up to 42, and it was like nice and hot. And I was like, ooh, girl, I feel clean.
That'll be so nice to be able to have that little bit of extra warmth.
It was lovely. But then, to be fair, I am suffering now. Like I feel like you can kind of see like the redness is all there. That was definitely
a little bit.
Shower. But I don't care. It was good.
It's more comfortable. It's comfortable. You got through it. Yeah, it's funny how like, because I prefer to bath as well. Like it's just, it's much easier, and I'm much happier like having a bath than having a shower. It's funny how like they're similar things, but just a shower is just so much more painful, and I don't know what that is.
I don't know either. The baths have always been better for me as well. But I don't have a bath in my new house. Oh, sorry, I'm swinging this headphone in the camera. I don't have a bath at my new house, so I've just had to get used to showers, and now I'm fine with it. But the baths are definitely much nicer for the skin.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I think that that was really great to hear from both Dr. Olivia and Chris, and hear everything that they had to say. Was there anything else that you wanted to go over with Chris as well?
I don't think so. Just absolutely great guy. What a G. Love him. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know, and I'm so happy for him. Like that he been able to because it was looking scary at sort of 16 months. Like the skin looked like me to start with, and he was able to sort of heal super quickly, but it was an 18-month period, like 18 months of going through TSW before he got there. So it is he had that crazy turnaround, but it took forever to get there still.
And
but
I guess it's, sorry to interrupt that just quickly.
That's right.
It's I had such a similar experience as well, in that I was going through the thick of it, like the worst awful TSW symptoms right up until like 10.5 months, and all of a sudden in 2 weeks it just cleared up. Like, and it's so bizarre, the fact that you go from like absolute horrific withdrawal to all of a sudden like you just see progress so quickly. So I guess it's just like, for anybody going through it and they feel like they're in the thick of it, it's never going to end, you can see that all of a sudden it can turn around so quickly and that you will get better. It's just, you've got to keep pushing and you'll get there. Yeah,
the resilience is key. That's a mega, that's a really, really hard part to keep pushing and keep getting through. So we do want to try and find someone to chat to about resilience, because I think that'll be, I just want to hear from them, like, because I feel like I'm only sort of halfway through, so I definitely need some help with resilience, and I think that would be really incredible to get some tips and some guidance for everyone out there as well.
Yes, definitely, for sure.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think that was great. So yeah, thank you for giving us all of your insights on that. I think it was really awesome to hear from both of those guys, and from your perspective of someone who didn't do Chinese medicine, sort of what you got out of it as well. Yeah, no, it was great. Thank you so much. Pleasure. So we'll look forward to chatting to you in a couple of weeks. I think the next episode we have coming up is with Martin Reed, who is a sleep expert. So he's an insomnia coach, and so I think that is going to be really awesome for a lot of people out there. I can't wait for this one. I am so excited. I can't wait to hear. I can't wait. So yeah, I'm so excited, and yeah. We'll chat to you soon. Ciao. Chat to you soon. Bye. Thank you for engaging in this episode of the Alt Health Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like this video and subscribe for notifications when we drop new episodes. This podcast is brought to you by Control Skin. Let's challenge health and gain freedom. This podcast is co-hosted and co-produced by Eve Swartz and myself, Jordan Hendy. Social media is by Kara Stapley and Jordan Hendy, and the audio and video was edited by Jordan Hendy. The intro and outro music is Sneakers by Aves. And if you are listening to the audio version of this episode, you're able to watch the video on YouTube and Spotify. Thanks again, have a wonderful day, and happy healing.